Today we'll be working in my workbook called The Covenant Broken and Renewed and looking at the table of contents. Hmm. This is the period of time between when Moses gets the instructions on building the tabernacle and tent of meeting to when he comes down and he realizes the people have gone astray. They have made the golden calf while he was away for 40 days. And now this is all the separation from God and coming back, connecting to God before they move forward and actually build the tabernacle and the tent of meeting. So we have gone through the golden calf. We've gone through Moses's response to the golden calf. And then 3 and 4 had to do with God saying, well, I can't do this. And Moses interceding for the people and the reconnecting to God in chapter 4. And then we see Moses, and then he's talking about wanting to see the glory of the Lord. And we know this story of him standing by the cleft of the rock. It doesn't happen in chapter 5. We are going to actually see it in chapter 6. But the story is coming up. It's the prep work, knowledge of where Moses cannot see the face of God is presented in chapter 5. So now we go to chapter 6. The stone tablets are replaced. In Exodus 34, 1 through 28.
The Lord said to Moses, cut for yourself 2 tablets of stone like the first, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. Be ready by the morning and come up in the morning to Mount Sinai and present yourself there to me on the top of the mountain. No one shall come up with you, and let no one be seen throughout all the mountain. Let no flocks or herds graze opposite that mountain.
In this chapter, God will reestablish the covenant with Israel and restate some key conditions. Who is making these tablets of stone?
Moses.
Who made the first tablets of stone?
God.
Who broke the first tablets of stone?
Moses.
Did God tell Moses to break the first 2 tablets?
No.
Do you think God is punishing Moses by having him hewn the new tablets of stone since he broke the first ones?
Yes.
Several times, as I mentioned before, several times Moses's anger has put him in an awkward position. And we know of 3 important times. This is now the second time that there's probably the last time is where God says, okay, you can't go into the promised land. But the first time is when he killed the Egyptian, and then this one, and then the other. There's been other situations, but these are 3 clear times where God didn't tell him to do that, and he was punished for it.
Yeah.
Moses had to work fast. When did he need them?
By morning.
Yeah, boy, I don't think I could chisel 2 tablets of stone in one day. Were any to come up on the mountain with him?
No.
What was not allowed on the mountain?
No flocks or herds or grazing.
Based on the chronology on page 3, what is the approximate date for Moses's last descent?
April 25th of the first year.
Right. Yeah. Not necessarily April, but yeah.
Oh.
Because their months are called different than ours. But
yeah, right. Okay. So Moses cut 2 tablets of stone like the first, and he rose early in the morning and went up on Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded him, and took in his hand 2 tablets of stone. The Lord descended in the cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of the Lord.
did Moses do all that the Lord commanded him to do?
Yes.
From heaven, how did God descend and where did he stand?
In the cloud and stood with him there.
All right. This appears to be the cloud of glory, known as the Shekinah glory, and appears at other times. Exodus 19:16. On the morning of the 3rd day, there was thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Exodus 33, 9 through 10. As Moses went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance, while the Lord spoke with Moses. Whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance to the tent, they all stood and worshiped, each at the entrance to their tent. And First Chronicles 7, 1-2. When Solomon finished praying, fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of the Lord filled the temple. The priest could not enter the temple of the Lord because the glory of the Lord filled it. So, what did the Lord proclaim?
The name of the Lord.
This is the name Yahweh or Jehovah, which means I am. Even though Moses made the 2 tablets of stone, who still writes the words on them?
God.
Yeah.
The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgressions and sin, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the inequity of the fathers on the children and the children's children to the third and the fourth generation.
Here is the moment when Moses is seeing the back of God while he stood at the cleft of the rock. Where would Moses be when the Lord passed before him?
Cleft of a rock.
Yeah. God is now going to proclaim his character in words. I imagine this visual loses a lot in the description when we aren't actually there to experience it. So complete the following. Go ahead.
The Lord is merciful and gracious. The Lord is slow to anger. The Lord is abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. The Lord keeps steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin. The Lord will no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children.
Right. I wish there was a visual on this because I think the visual would be so much better than us trying to read it. You know,
Yeah.
where it goes by and all these words are being said, and they have so much more power when we see it visually than when we read it. I just think so. Um, Now, a lot of people more whom I know means clear the guilty, visiting the inequity of the fathers on the children. A lot of people are very concerned with that. What's that mean? Obviously, if a person is guilty and they get by with it, God will find them guilty. But as far as the inequity onto the children and children's children, it isn't like they're guilty. It's like an alcoholic and how their children raised with an alcoholic, how that affects them.
Yeah. And Moses quickly bowed his head toward the earth and worshiped. And he said, if now I have found favor in your sight, O Lord, please let the Lord go in the midst of us, for it is a stiff-necked people, and pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your inheritance.
After the encounter was over, what did Moses do?
Bowed his head in worship.
What does Moses ask again for the Lord to be in the midst of?
Oh, I forgot to finish that. What does, again, does Moses ask again for the Lord to be in the midst of? Oh, I guess us.
Right, the people.
Yeah, the people.
This is in spite of the people's flaws, which are?
The people are a stiff-necked people, and the people have iniquity and sin.
So he's asking for God's grace, not his justice. Moses also asked for what?
Take us for your inheritance.
The word inheritance is used instead of people because it signifies God's special relationship with Israel, highlighting their status as his chosen and treasured possession, not just a group of individuals. This term emphasizes God's covenant with them and their unique position with his plan. The concept of inheritance in the Bible often refers to something valuable and cherished that is passed down or acquired. In this context, it signifies God's claim on Israel as a special possession, a relationship built on the covenant established at Mount Sinai. I mean, because if you look at it, the word inheritance is strange here. Why would God be inheriting us? It's kind of thing. So, yeah, it means a little different than what we think of. Think of the people's fear when the Lord came down to the mountain to speak to them, and now Moses has a very personal encounter with God. How would you feel if you were Moses?
I'd be excited and thrilled.
And and you're so, I would feel that, but also feel so inadequate. So like, how much more can I do to tell you how I love you? I can't. There's nothing more I can do, type thing. It's, yeah.
Mhm. And he said, Behold, I am making a covenant before all your people. I will do marvels such as have not been created in all the earth or in any nation, and all the people among whom you are shall see the work of the Lord, for it is an awesome thing that I will do with you.
A covenant is more than just a contract. It's a sacred bond, particularly between God and humanity, that establishes a relationship with significant implications. Covenants in the Bible are foundational to the understanding God's relationship with his people and unfolding of his redemptive plan. God first says what he will be doing for the Israelites. What is God going to make with the Israelites?
What's God going to make? A covenant.
Right. And go ahead and complete two.
I will do marvels such as have not been created in all the earth or in any nation.
Some of these marvels to come are the drying up of the Jordan, the falling down of the walls of Jericho, and the destruction of the five kings with hailstones. Go ahead and complete number three.
All the people among whom you are, all the neighboring peoples, shall see the work of the Lord, for it is an awesome thing that I will do with you.
And examples of this is Rahab's testimony during the walls of Jericho. And Joshua 2:9-11 reveals that the fear of the Israelites have fallen on the people of Jericho due to the reports of God's power. And when kingdoms surrounding Judah heard how Lord fought against the enemies of Israel, the fear of God came upon them, according to 2 Chronicles 20:29. So, yes, the awesomeness of God surrounding the Israelites, even if they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, just built up all that fear in the people they were eventually going to conquer. You're next, right? Yeah. Okay.
Observe what I command you this day. Behold, I will drive out before you the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivite, and the
Hivites.
Jebusites. Take
Right.
care lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land to which you go, lest it become a snare in your midst.
Right. God continues to say what he'll do as his part of the covenant. When they get to the land of Canaan, who will God drive out? And so circle on the map. So we've got the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Although it's not a clear reason why the Girgasites, which is right here, weren't listed in the New Testament, they are located on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, so perhaps they moved on their own. The Philistines are left to continue to test the Israelites, and the Moabites are not included because they're not in the promised land. What are the Israelites to take care not to do?
Covenant with the people.
Right. Why should the Israelites not make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land?
It becomes a snare.
Right. And the Israelites were actually tricked into a peace treaty with the Gibeonites in Joshua 9, and it did become a snare. In this case, Joshua, it's an interesting story. They tricked Joshua, and Joshua was trying to be fair and stuff. He was fair with them, and based on what they told him, he made a treaty with them, and it ended up being what they told him was a lie. And basically, they made the treaty so that they could protect themselves from being obliterated. And but that's exactly one of the examples that God says, don't make a covenant because it'll become a snare. But Joshua followed through with his treaty, even though he realized that they lied. He followed through with his treaty, and they were not obliterated. So
You shall tear down their altars and break their pillars and cut down their wooden images, for you shall worship no other God, but the Lord whose name is jealous is a jealous God. lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and when they're whore after their gods and sacrifice to their gods, and you are invited, you eat of his sacrifice, and you take of their daughters for your sons, and their daughters whore after their gods, and make your sons whore after their gods. You shall not make for yourself any gods of cast metal.
Now, God will tell us what the Israelite side of the covenant will be. Verses 12 through 17 deal with the first commandment. And he's summarizing because he went over this before with them, but he's summarizing now. What are the Israelites to do with the altar and wooden images of idols they find in the promised land?
Tear down their altar, break their pillars, and cut down wooden images.
In verse 15, what does God not want them to do?
Not to make a covenant with the inhabitants of the people of the land.
Not only are the Israelites not to eat of the sacrifice from the inhabitants in the land, but they're also not to what and what?
Have their children marry the children of the people of the land and make gods out of cast metal.
Right. Casting related directly to their prior making of the golden calf, as it was made out of cast or molten metal.
Amazing. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month Abib. For in a month Abib you came out from Egypt. All that open the womb are mine. All your male livestock, the firstborn of cow and sheep, the firstborn of a donkey, you shall redeem with a lamb. Or if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. From all the firstborn of your sons you shall redeem, and none shall appear before me empty-handed.
Second requirement of the covenant is celebrating the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And basically, all the firstborn you're redeeming, and that's because he passed over their houses during the 10th plague. And so basically, the firstborn, he's considering the firstborn of people his.
Mm-hmm.
And you're redeeming by buying back, by giving a sacrifice for them. But the firstborn are his. And that's why a lot of Catholic families, the firstborn son is supposed to go into the priesthood. But it's not so much now. But what is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Passover, celebrating?
The firstborn was saved in Egypt in the land, last plague.
Right. What Hebrew month did they come out of Egypt?
Abib.
Right. This responds to March, April of our year. Due to the first Passover, what are all owned by God?
All the firstborn of man and animal.
Right. If an Israelite would not redeem the firstborn of his livestock, what is he to do with it?
Break its neck.
So might as well redeem it, because you're going to lose it anyway.
Yeah. 6 days you shall work, but on the 7th day you shall rest. In plowing time and in harvest you shall rest. You shall observe the Feast of Weeks, the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. 3 times in the year shall all your males appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. For I will cast out nations before you and enlarge your borders. No one shall covet your land when you go up to appear before the Lord your God 3 times in the year.
3 more requirements God gives for this covenant, and he then reminds them of what they are getting in return. What is another commandment the Lord spoke about here?
Sabbath day.
Mm-hmm. If there are only 2 feasts listed here, not 3, then that means the first fruit of the wheat harvest is for what feast?
Wheat feast.
Yeah. And Feast of Weeks and the Feast of Ingathering. So the first fruit of the wheat harvest is the Feast of Weeks. What 2 feasts listed here that Lord insists the people celebrate?
Feast of Weeks and Feast of Ingathering.
Right. The Lord talks of 3 feasts, and yet only 2 are on this page. What is the other one?
The Passover.
Right. God then reminds the Israelites what he will do for them. What will he do?
Cast out nations and enlarge your borders.
Right. And then I added this so you could kind of see. He's talking about just the three, which is Passover, Unleavened, and Feast of Weeks, which is Tabernacles, I think. So, but the others came later. Okay.
Okay, you shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with anything leavened, or let the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover remain until the morning. The best of the first fruits of your ground you shall bring to the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk.
Now we have some odd, peculiar commands. Why God singles these out, we're not sure. Go ahead and complete number one.
You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with anything leavened.
This means not to put any yeast or anything made with yeast in with the blood of any animal sacrificed. Yeast represented sin, and the blood of the sacrifice represented taking away of the sin. So it was symbolic.
Yeah.
Number two.
Let the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover not remain until the morning.
Exodus 34:25 repeats Exodus 23:18. Keeping the leftovers of a sacrifice for the Passover would give the impression that God would not continue to supply food. Number three.
You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk.
Exodus 34:26 repeats Exodus 23:19. There are two possible reasons for this rule. It is suggested that the command has reference to a superstitious practice customary at the close of harvest, the kid being then boiled in its mother's milk, with magic rites and the milk used to sprinkle plantations, fields, and gardens in order to render them more productive the next year. Another explanation of the passage is there was a sort of cruelty in making the milk of the mother, intended for the kid's sustenance, the means of its destruction. God is reminding Moses of only certain passages here dealing with his original telling of the laws in Exodus 20:23-19. This doesn't mean that all the other rules are not also in place, as Moses tells the people in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 9:8-10. At Horeb you aroused the Lord's wrath, so that he was very angry enough to destroy you. When I went up on the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant that the Lord had made with you, I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no bread and drank no water. The Lord gave me 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God. On them were all the commandments of the Lord proclaimed to you on the mountain out of the fire on the day of assembly. So we know that they had all of them and not just a selective few. So why God just picked those few to remind him, I don't know.
And the Lord said to Moses, write these words, for in accordance with these words, I have made a covenant with you and with Israel. So he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water, and he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 Commandments.
In Exodus 34:27 and Exodus 34:1, are they a contradiction, or does it mean that Moses wrote something other than the commands and laws of God?
Moses wrote something, covenant, other than the commands and the laws of God.
Yeah, and we're thinking that since the Lord wrote on the tablets, that he probably wrote about the whole event. Like this book. If Moses did not write on the tablets, but God did, yet we know he did write, he wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. What do you think he wrote about?
What God meant or what God said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some scriptures talking about his writings are below. Exodus 17:14. So the Lord said to Moses, write this on a scroll as something to be remembered and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I'll completely blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven. Exodus 24:3-4. When Moses went and told the people all the Lord's words and laws, they responded with one voice, everything the Lord has said we will do. Moses then wrote down everything the Lord had said. Deuteronomy 31:7-9. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you must go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them, and you must divide it among them as in their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He'll never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. So Moses wrote down this law and gave it to the Levitical priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. So he did a lot of writing. We still think that God wrote on these tablets. So
Mm.
okay. So number 3, what numbered ascent is this for Moses?
6.
5, the cloud of glory that stood with Moses is also known as the
Shekinah.
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 Yeah, I'm not quite saying it right now because I heard your version and I kind of forgot. One of the
Yeah.
peoples that God could not drive out that starts with the letter P.
Philistine.
Good. A blank is a sacred bond between man and God.
Covenant.
12, right after the encounter with God, Moses bowed his head and
Worship.
13, the Feast of Unleavened Bread is also known as the
Passover.
one down. The Israelites are not to make any gods out of cast
Metal.
2, when the Lord passed by Moses, Moses was in the
Cliff.
of the rock. 4, Moses did not ask God to take the people as his people, but as his
Inheritance.
right. 6, the name of the first month changed from Abib to
Nisan.
right, Nisan. Yeah.
Some.
Right. One of the peoples that God would drive out that starts with the letter J.
Jebusite.
Yeah, Jebusites. Yeah. 9, how many tablets of stone are there?
2.
And who made the second set of stone tablets?
Moses.
Right. So hang on here.